return to the Jerome Bettis of his rookie year with this new offense?
Well, I think it's really a trade that if they can get him back to the level that he was 2 years ago, it's exactly what Pittsburgh wants. They want to run the football. They're big in the offensive line. They can control the football. Jim Miller or Mike Tomczak, whoever plays quarterback, they're not going to turn the ball over. We played them in 1994. Neil O'Donnell did not turn the ball over 21 quarters. We couldn't get a turnover from him. Very protective with the football. If Bettis comes in, runs the ball for them, controls the clock, their defense is going to turn the ball over and make plays. This is a big trade for them, and I think this is a good move.
Thinking back, though, he was in the same backfield of Notre Dame with Ricky Waters and Rick Meyer. Talk about talent on one campus at what time. Mike?
Differences in what Jerome Bettis produced offensively. When you change venues like this, can you get the fresh approach that I would imagine Jerome Bettis is looking for?
Well, I think what a lot of people forget is Jerome Bettis is now coming with baggage. And the baggage is, well, he's lazy, he won't produce. If he get nicked, he won't play, hurt. And, so he's coming with a little bit of baggage. But I think Jerome is the kind of guy that will fight that off and see what he's got in front of him in a huge and wonderful offensive line. I think he'll be okay.
I think the interesting thing is when you look back at the Rams' career, he did most of his damage on grass. And, of course, he played on a grass surface at Notre Dame. Now he goes to Pittsburgh, which is turf. So it'll be interesting to see if just going to a winning atmosphere is enough, because I really felt like in St. Louis at Busch and then in the Dome, he wasn't at his best. He's a guy that really likes that grass surface. So hopefully for the Steelers, it'll be just a winning organization. The fact that there's so much pressure from his teammates to work hard, and he'll feel like, hey, what I'm doing is for a purpose, which is to get to a Super Bowl.
Right.
So Jerome Bettis is the one veteran who was being rumored in trade talk that actually was traded. We heard some very significant rumors working up this week towards the draft of a couple of players, Eric Swan in Arizona, the defensive lineman, and Johnny Mitchell, the tight end for the New York Jets. We bring in Chris Mortensen from Miami. Mort, update us on both of those situations, starting with Eric Swan out in the desert.
Well, I don't think we've heard the end of the Swan and Mitchell stories, Mike, because Eric Swan now knows what the Denver Broncos would have given him. He actually finished contract negotiations with the Broncos. He was going to get a $7 million plus signing bonus, $21 million over a life of a contract. That's money that Bill Bidwell doesn't want to pay Eric Swan. So we're now looking at a potentially long training camp holdout, and possibly Arizona maybe being forced to move him if they don't think they can get value in terms of getting him signed to a contract. I mean, he can't go anywhere. He's a franchise player. So then you look at Johnny Mitchell. The Jets have to clear some money under the cap to sign their rookie draft picks. Is he going to be released? We've heard that scenario, too. And so I think that the names of Mitchell and Swan are going to hang out there. All right, Mike.
Okay, Mort, we're going to swing it to Sal Palantonio, who's with the Baltimore folks. But Sal was hot and heavy in some of the trade conversation involving Johnny Mitchell potentially and the Philadelphia Eagles. Sal, we'll explore that and some other thoughts on these veterans who were rumored to be traded, but the trigger hasn't been pulled on all those deals this weekend.
Well, Michael, Johnny Mitchell, the Eagles had an interest in him, but the asking price was way too high. Cleveland definitely needed one. I'm sorry, I said Cleveland. There I go again. Baltimore wanted a tight end, but again, the asking price was way too high, plus the fact that I talked to Ozzie Newsome, the director of football operations. He said he didn't want to upset the apple cart. That was not the kind of player that he wanted to bring into the locker room here, that they were happy with the mix, the chemistry that they've got started going with the Ravens. I just got off the phone, interestingly enough, with Jim Steiner, Randall Cunningham's former agent. I said, Jim, what's going on with Randall Cunningham? Have you heard anything new? He said, Sal, I got divorced from Randall about 10 days ago. It's an on-again, off-again relationship, and he said, check in with Randall, the source himself, to find out what's going on. He said he hasn't heard anything what's going on with Randall. Michael?
And Sal, Randall is one of the few veteran quarterbacks, David Craig included in that group, and David Klingler, experienced quarterbacks who've started NFL games who are out there without a home right now. And as teams assess their quarterback situation, they would have to wonder, do they bring in any of those individuals as potential backups or insurance policies? Because, as you know, it's not easy to get through the NFL season as a starting quarterback, although there was more success in that statistic last year compared to '94. We'll continue from New York after this.
Carbon monoxide isn't the only thing to worry about coming from your tailpipe, because with every stroke of your engine, motor oil is being vaporized into exhaust, leaving less and less.
RPM Tonight, the ultimate wrap-up of the day that was in the world of motor racing. Tonight at 7, only on ESPN2.
Maine in the NFL draft. Among the last 6 picks, Jay Remersma, the tight end from Michigan, who was productive in the Wolverine system, along with Mercury Hayes and Amani Toomer, the wide receivers. Who's going to catch the ball in Ann Arbor next year? That's the question. He goes to Buffalo, where Lonnie Johnson, the former Florida State star, has improved, but they are certainly still looking to upgrade the tight end position, very crucial in the offense they like to run. Before our last commercial break, we were talking about Randall Cunningham and where his situation may end up in the NFL this year. We bring in Chris Mortensen again from Miami. Mort, what have you heard on the Randall front?
Well, the timing of his dismissing Jim Steiner as agent again was about the same when Boomer Esiason signed with the Arizona Cardinals. That's really where Randall Cunningham wanted to play. So I think, from what I understand, there was extreme disappointment there when the Cardinals took Boomer Esiason. He lives in Las Vegas. He would have loved to play there. Of course, if Buddy Ryan had stayed there, Randall probably would have been there. Now, I've also spoken with several personnel directors and coaches who do not think Randall Cunningham has a future in this league because he is not backup quarterback material. He has to come in as a starter. All the starters' jobs are taken. Rodney Peete's scathing criticism of Randall 2 weeks ago in Philadelphia really hurt Randall Cunningham because Pete, a very credible person, basically blasted Cunningham as a poor backup and a poor teammate. Mike?
It was a tough time. You just think back to the Philadelphia Sunday night game early in the year out at Arizona. And remember the situation with Rodney and Randall. And, you know, we kept looking to the sideline to see what was going to be the reaction between the two. What do you think Randall Cunningham's going to do in this situation?
Well, I think he's going to, you know, after the draft, he's going to sit back and see if any of the young quarterbacks that haven't been taken or guys that are out there get taken. But he's in a very difficult situation. I mean, he's in a situation where he hasn't been in a backup role but 1 year, and he really didn't like it. So it's going to be difficult and interesting to see what Randall Cunningham does. Patience is not one of the things that a backup quarterback has.
Sal Palantonio, you were in the Philadelphia situation and told us quite often that it was a little bit of a divisive situation. We're going to bring in Sal here and recount for us, Sal, some of what 95 was like around that Philadelphia organization, the sideshow even during the playoffs when Randall had to leave to go back to the West Coast for his wife giving birth to their child.
Well, Mike, what happened was that Randall Cunningham said that he was going to miss a playoff game and the last game of the season, if necessary, to be back with his wife to the birth of their first child, which happened to be his son. Congratulations to Randall for that. But it really upset a lot of the coaching staff and the organization the way he handled it. He didn't take his playbook back to Las Vegas. He didn't really prepare for the Dallas game. And he wasn't prepared when Rodney Peete had to go out with a concussion. He came in and he did not play well. He had a very poor performance. It was not a good performance to go out with in that Dallas playoff game. But his problems in Philadelphia have been going on for years, don't forget. Bubby Brister and him had a lot of friction over whether or not who was going to be the starting quarterback. He and Jim McMahon had big problems when Rich Kotite was the head coach. And don't forget, when Ray Rhodes came in last year, he said that Randall Cunningham was his starting quarterback, anointed him the starter, gave him the job, and Randall basically took the job away from himself by not preparing well, not executing the offense, and he just really wasn't suited well for the West Coast offense. He has that long, loping delivery of the football. He doesn't really read defenses as well as some people would like. He just didn't hit his mark. He wasn't as accurate a passer, and that's what the problem was with Randall Cunningham in Philadelphia. Let's go to Chris Myers in Dallas.
All right, Sal. Hey, I spoke to Randall Cunningham just a few moments ago by telephone. He's home in Las Vegas with his newly born son, Randall Jr. They were just hanging out, and Randall said, yes, it's true, he's changing agents. He's considering joining Marvin Demoff, the quarterback agent who, of course, represents many, including Jim Everett, actually 3 of the Saints quarterbacks in New Orleans. And Randall, at age 33, said he still thinks he can start and play in the NFL. However, he did not rule out the possibility of playing for a team like Washington or Tampa, where there's a young quarterback that he can play behind or spell should the quarterback falter, even considering a backup situation with a team that has a possibility of greater success like a Dallas or a San Francisco. But Randall thinks he still will play in the NFL and is hoping for that call to come. He wanted to play for the Rams and thought that was the team where he was going to land, but of course the signing of Steve Walsh and then, as Randall just said, the drafting of Tony Banks certainly changed that, although he still would consider the Rams should their situation change and Steve Ortmeyer give him a call. That's it for now. Let's go to Andrea Kramer.
Well, to be honest with you, Chris, Coach Tony Dungy happened to have had the misfortune of being in our draft room to listen to your report, and he told us that there's no way in the world Randall Cunningham would be playing here with all due respect to his talents. Pointed out that Casey Weldon is the backup. Kelly Holcomb is doing pretty well in the World League. So I don't think that Tampa is a place